Hello and welcome back to Interjections. We've got a special midweek post-victory over Arsenal episode. I'm your host Andrew, Irfan, Miko, and Jay with me. Irfan, how are you doing?
Good. Just can't stop winning, I guess. What a what a interesting world to find ourselves in, where we just keep dominating and winning. And what a great match that we just had against Arsenal, which we'll get into. But no, I'm just kidding. But it does feel good to get the win. And it looks like we're in good shape in the Champions League, so no complaints from me.
That's right, 3 wins in a row, 3 clean sheets in a row. We're really humming. Miko, what's up?
Not much, not much. Pretty happy. Happy, well, very happy with the result and okay-ish with the performance. But let's get into it.
Here's a man who will certainly not be okay-ish with the performance. What's up, Jay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I feel it's a fitting place to start by congratulating a great man, a great American, a great leader, leading his party to a famous victory. Congratulations, Christian Pulisic, for his victory at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid.
Of course.
Otherwise, let's get into it.
You know, when your hot betting tip, you facetiously said 4-0 Milan. You were actually somewhat close.
I was indeed.
There's a lot to take away positively from this match against Arsenal. We had all expected heavy rotation after the game against Venezia, where we rolled out full starters, and I saw a lot of general panic from Inter fans when looking through this lineup when the Italian core of Barella, DeMarco, Bastoni's on the bench to start the match. We've seen how this typically goes for us, and it's usually not well. So to walk away from a game in which you rested key players, you have a Scudetto showdown immediately following it. And to walk away from that with the full 3 points is an incredible feeling. And you really feel like Inzaghi got away with one here. And I mean that positively. Like it was a managing success for him because he hit on so many objectives in one fell swoop. For the match itself, I think you'd be hard pressed to say we played great. We didn't create a ton of chances. Obviously, the game started great with Dumfries taking that shot right off the crossbar. And we were the better team for probably the first 5-10 minutes. But Arsenal settled in. It was cagey. Neither team had a ton of chances. Arsenal had more possession. They had a ton of corners, but very few of them led to genuine goal scoring chances. We were just kind of feeling each other out, and the game lacked a certain sort of oomph to it. But then we drew the penalty, which we'll talk about the legitimacy of the penalty. But we draw the penalty. Hakan converts it because that's what Hakan does. And then we buckled down. We played great defense for 45, 50 minutes. I mean, we've given Bisek a hard time on this podcast. We've given Darmian a hard time on this podcast, but they were both excellent yesterday, just completely shutting down Saka. And like I said, Arsenal had very few genuine goal scoring chances. So while, the XG are not favorable towards Inter, maybe the eye test isn't favorable towards Inter if you're neutral. If you haven't watched the Italian team this year, you're like, that's a typical Italian performance. But I think we can take a lot of solace in that fact because we kept yet another clean sheet in the Champions League. We scored the first goal against Arsenal in the Champions League. And we did this all while keeping a team pretty much fully rested for this game against Napoli on Sunday. So I only have positive things to say. This match was a success in every facet for me. I guess we can start off by just talking about Inzaghi's lineup decisions. Irfan, were you surprised? Were you, I don't know, were you concerned when you saw the lineup pulled out there? What were your thoughts and feelings towards it?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely concerned. I felt like there was a lot of rotation, and I get it because we want to make sure we're in good shape against Napoli. We're only 1 point behind them now, so it's important to present really well in that match and pick up 3 points. So I get it from that perspective. But yeah, the lineup when I initially saw it definitely worried me. But I agree with you. I think the performance was really good in that sense. Like it felt like a controlled performance. I'm not saying we were wonderful or we wowed anybody, or a neutral party watching was very impressed with us, but I think we got the job done. It was like a very professional performance. Defense definitely was impressive. Bisek, like you said, I think played a monster match. Like, he was really, really good. I thought Dumfries played really well as well. And the midfield did its job. And, Taremi, I thought, was pretty good. And Lautaro was okay. But to me, what really stood out in this match was the way we finished the match, because we were defending really, really deep. And we were holding that low block against Arsenal, and we really didn't give them much. They didn't have any very great A+ chances, and so it was organized. It was compact. They did a really good job there, and to me, I liked that Inzaghi showed a little bit of change. Now, I couldn't tell for sure if it was like a 4-5-1 or what he did towards the end, but when he pulled the forward and basically had just one forward out there in Thuram, um, and replaced, I think it was Taremi or Lautaro with DeMarco. That I thought was a great kind of move, because it showed some sort of change. Like, it showed some sort of recognition from him that we don't close out matches well. So it would seem like it was a difference in sort of personnel and tactics, understanding that we needed to batten down the hatches and just kind of defend the lead. And it seemed to work. I thought we defended really well down the stretch. Obviously, Aslani coming on really helped. So overall, no complaints.
I'll let the Aslani comment slide. Jay, what were your thoughts on the penalty? On one hand, you have a ball hit a raised defender's hands in the box and stopped a ball that was heading towards the goal. On the other hand, I mean, it was a tough break for Arsenal, because what do you want the defender to do in this situation? So what do you think of the penalty? Of course, Arsenal fans were grumbling about it, so curious your take.
Might be a bit of a non-answer, but I really don't think about the penalty. I tend not to worry too much about like these kind of handball penalties given, because I think there's a precedent set, and I think this handball incident was in line with that precedent to give those kinds of penalties, and so I don't have any complaints. And yeah, obviously easy for me to say so as a fan of the the benefiting party, but those kind of handballs are just always given, and so had to be given. Irfan made a great point about the defending, and it was refreshing to see how resolute we were in defense. And it's been a stark contrast to the Juve game, for example. Obviously, it would have been nice to be a bit more on the front foot and win with a style a bit more entertaining or a bit more authoritative. But I'm pleased that we took this small step towards building ourselves into a mentally resolute and big game player, if you know what I'm saying. I feel like you get these opportunities sometimes, and it's important that you take the opportunities you get, because they in the long run they build up some kind of deep rooted psychological strength, and it's imperative for the team to have that to draw upon when they need it. Maybe the Champions League final was a leap too far for us 2-3 years ago. Maybe even fucking Atleti was a leap too far for us last season. But this season, so far, we've held our own against Man City at the Etihad, and now we've beaten Arsenal at home. So again, still too early to say. I'm convinced we can go out there and beat, like, let's say hypothetically, Barca are like the team to beat right now. If we had a Champions League final against Barca right now, would we win it? Would we have the kind of mental resolve to win it? I'm not quite sure yet, but games like this and taking opportunities like this are critical steps to building yourself into the kind of team that can, eventually win those big games. So that's the thing that I'm happy about the most. The growth in mentality, tactically speaking, having two right-footed players on the left flank was a good way to shut down Saka. Was always going to cut in with his left foot, and he felt very limited to purely crossing. He didn't really cut in and dribble much. He got one shot off, which someone saved, but otherwise he was very much just a standing winger who just cross the ball in and just take set pieces. So limiting Saka to that low output was also very important to maintaining the risk that Arsenal posed. And overall, yeah, happy that we nullified them. Like I said, we're not always going to get away with these kind of like score one goal and then just go all out defense games. We've seen that already in the league, especially. We've had a lot of difficulty trying to preserve a lead or a result. We failed to do so against Milan. We failed to do so against Juventus. We failed to do so against Genoa and Monza. Because we didn't see this kind of deep, kind of desperate defending where you've got Bissek hurling himself at Havertz to get that critical block off. The guy was flying around and winning headers here and there. De Vrij was the same, winning a lot of area balls, getting his foot in and making some key blocks. And that's what's been lacking on the league front. We've been defending, but just with, like I kept saying, just without the same level of desire. It just feels like a 75% version of what we saw today. So if we can kind of apply this intensity, this desire to the way we perform in the league, and hopefully we do, starting with Napoli, then I really do think, we're back where we are last season, where we're the team to beat and we're the team to can be considered favourites for the title.
Yeah, there was a sort of desperation yesterday that we had not seen defensively in a while, throwing ourselves at balls, really just intense focus on locking players down. And it was refreshing to see because it's been a while, but I think it also just shows you what the Champions League is bringing out in this team, where this team is just ultra motivated for this competition. This team thinks it can win this competition. And it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy because we're playing so well in the competition that we're setting ourselves up well to be in the top 8 to avoid that extra knockout round that's the other 16 teams are going to be exposed to. And there's so much luck that goes into the Champions League in terms of who you draw next and who's going to be on the fixture list. But to your point, aside from this year's version of Barcelona, always worried about Bayern. There aren't too many teams who I worry about Inzaghi drafting up a good game plan against in the Champions League. We have to be feeling good about making some sort of run in this thing. Miko, your thoughts on the match? Anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of like the performance, even though we need to admit we indeed didn't create too much. I wanna always use these stats and XG and these kind of stats to try to back up my claims a bit, and this time as we can expect, the stats weren't in our favor. Arsenal had the possession, they had the shots on goal, they had the chances. The expected goal was 1.8 to Arsenal. So and we had like okay, the penalty got it pretty high, but non-penalty XG was like 0.4 to us. So it was really low and quite unusual for this Inter. And I'm kind of happy that at once we got the better of the result despite the stats. Like if we end up losing points, it's usually some kind of a situation where the opponent gets so-called lucky, or they have much less XG than us, and still they get away with a point or even a win. But this time it was the other way around. We had a nice rehearsals how to defend the corners. Arsenal had like 13 corners against our 0 corners. So it was kind of fun to watch the game. At the same time, it was a bit of a suffering to watch all the time, since I gotta say Arsenal's corners, they didn't seem like super dangerous, but as they got so many of them, they connected few, which they got a pretty good chance, but we managed to either block them. I think Dumfries blocked one in the goal line, if I remember. and then there was probably a few saves by Sommer as well.
Yeah, there was a period where the pressure seemed to mount and like peak at that Dumfries block. Dumfries saving the game with his with his with his monstrous schlong, his beef Wellington,
Yeah,
his meat and two veg,
yeah,
his Captain Morgan.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah.
Miko, tell me what part of the body Dumfries used to make that clearance.
I wasn't that precise to remember that, but thanks Jay for pointing that out for us. Yeah, but apart from the corners, I liked the way we defended, since Arsenal didn't really create too much. Like they they threw a ton of crosses, and mostly we just cleared them, and playing the ball on the ground. I don't remember they had much of anything. Like I said yesterday that I think even Venezia created better chances than Arsenal really did, uh, and and of course they were totally different type of games, but still the point is we defended really well this match, as you guys pointed out already, and yeah, I'm happy we get this kind of a result, which is like maybe someone could say it's a bit unfair, given the penalty was a bit of a, I don't know, I would call it a bit cheap, even if it's totally understandable why it was called. Like we've suffered many of these type of penalties when the if the ball is going towards the net, well, that is a penalty, no matter like how accidental the handball is. So I can't really understand the complaints about that penalty, because we've seen so many of those. Like it's that's just how the rules are, and you shouldn't have the hand waving there like that. Like was it Merino having the handball there? And one thing I want to comment, I saw Arteta complaining about that penalty, and then he was comparing it to the
Yeah,
Merino
yeah.
Sommer accident, and I don't
Hmm.
quite understand why compare two totally different cases. Like, yeah, one's a handball, yeah, there's no question. You can't value other totally different type of incident on the other side, and then kind of compare. Okay, I did this decision, so maybe I need to give a penalty now because something totally different happened on the other end. And I think the Sommer Merino incident, I think that went correct as well. Sommer connected the ball before connecting Merino's head, and I think this was a similar case as last season against Fiorentina, when we actually Fiorentina got a penalty,
Yeah.
which I think was a wrong call back then, and I think this was a correct call. But I don't know how they really how they should really go. I think are there like differences between the interpretation of the rules in Italy and in Europe? I can't really answer that, but I think this is the correct call. How it should go with the goalies and like storming out of the goal and trying to punch the ball away. But yeah, our Arteta comment was I was like giggling to that, and it feels good to read that kind of comments when these English guys end up complaining after our match when we beat them. I enjoy that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. My view on that was also similar, which is that the handball penalty, I think, was accurately and consistently called, right? I mean, I think most teams in most situations would get that penalty call, so I didn't have a problem with it, even though, like you said, it was probably a little soft. But by the rule of the law and the way it's consistently called, that's a penalty. The summer incident, I remember getting really upset last year when we got that penalty call against Fiorentina, or Fiorentina got that penalty call against us, because it's just, in my opinion, it was the wrong call and it's not consistently applied. So maybe there's something to the fact that it's not called consistently all the time. I don't even know, Miko, if it's really a difference between the way it's called in Italy versus the way it's called in Europe, in the Champions League, because I think it's not even called consistently in Italy. I think it's just that was to me still a really, really bad call. And I haven't seen a lot of other calls where the goalkeeper doesn't get the benefit of the doubt there. Like if he's anywhere near touching the ball, and if he actually touches the ball, that's usually never called a penalty. It's just like kind of incidental contact. And I remember against Fiorentina being very upset about that. So I'm glad it wasn't called here because it's just a BS call. And for Arteta to be complaining about it, I thought that was a little rich because honestly, to pretend like that was the difference in the match, I think was also a little disingenuous. I don't think Arsenal played particularly well or created that much. And I know they either rested or weren't able to play some of their starters as well. And they looked better when Odegaard came on. He actually gave them a little bit of a spark off the bench. But I don't think that you can look at the totality of the match and think that Arsenal necessarily deserved more, even if you want to isolate specific incidents.
Did Odegaard actually? How much he played?
That was like
Very few. Yeah.
7 minutes at the end of the match, plus the 7 minutes
Okay.
extra time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think they were missing him badly, and of course they missed Declan Rice as well. So he's their starting midfielder. So maybe that affected a bit.
He
I
would
don't
have been
know.
the third best midfielder on those two teams. So after Hakan and Aslani. So yeah.
Yeah. Of course. Aslan the cone.
He was so bad when he came on, even though he played for like 10 minutes. He was so fucking bad, man.
Was a goal given up? Can you remind me? Did we give up a goal when he came on? Because for some reason, when he's on and we give up a goal, even though it has nothing to do with him, he gets blamed. And yet, when he's on the pitch and we don't give up a goal, he doesn't get any credit. So I don't know, man. I think our listeners, all 5 of them, can decide by themselves.
They can do their own research.
He played, including the injury time. He played like 25 minutes. So there was a bit of a time he was there. Yeah, I wouldn't call he was bad, but I think he wasn't like particularly good either. Like he seems just a bit weak and like, I don't know. The defensive side of his game, it's not like top notch. It should be better.
He's recovering from an injury. He
Well,
used all of his willpower to go out there to help the club, put his blood, sweat, and tears out there, and you guys are criticizing him. Just unbelievable.
all right. It was an okay performance.
We've talked about this in the past. There's obviously an English language bias, and when you watch Champions League match against an Italian team, the English commentators typically resort to stereotypes to describe our players. And when Aslani came on the pitch, like, yeah, here comes Inter's defensive stalwart midfielder. This guy's really a defensive midfielder who comes in and shuts things down. I was like, wow, here is a guy who has never watched Aslani play a minute of football before in his life.
Yeah, like none of the pundits were even pronouncing calhanoglu correctly. They're like calhanoglu, and stuff like that. And I'm thinking,
Well,
this guy's not a fucking no name loser like Aslani. You know what I mean? He's a reputable player who's been around for many years and still, the English. Am I right?
half of this podcast cannot properly pronounce player names, so I plead the fifth. So great results. Like I said, only positive things to say, and it makes you super optimistic heading into this weekend's showdown against Napoli. Fully rested squad. Of course, Napoli are always fully rested because they're not playing European football this year. But it's a big game. It is our first match against one Antonio Conte since his return to the league. A weird thing has happened with Conte this year. He is not playing a proper 3 at the back formation. When you watch their games, it still very much feels like Conte ball. It's not a drastic shift from the way we looked under him. But on paper, they're playing with 4 at the back because he's trying to make use of his, I was going to say quality wingers, plural, but I don't know if I'm willing to classify Politano there. Regardless, he's trying to make use of the wide players he has at Napoli. And obviously it's working because they're top of the table. They're in great form and they're the team to beat so far this year. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of mixed emotions, mostly negative, with Conte coming to town. Miko, what are your takes on Napoli this year?
Well, the results have been awesome for them. Obviously, uh, I I have to admit I haven't watched like most of their matches. Some of their games I watched, and it's not like they are super impressive, but in a sense it's kind of a typical Conte football. What we saw back then at Inter, it was pretty defensive, but then they managed to get the goals from somewhere, no matter what, most of the time, excluding this Atalanta match last weekend. So it's either Kvaratskhelia or Lukaku being somehow related to the goal scoring, and yeah, they haven't conceded too much. They are like a good unit already, which is kind of an impressive from Conte, given what kind of a mess Napoli was last season. So he got the summer summer to prepare for this season. Now he has every week he can prepare for the league game. So he's done a good work already. But I'm I'm a fairly optimistic we can we can get a result from this match. Uh, Maybe because of this rotation we were able to do in this Arsenal match, which I kind of liked a lot.
We have to win. We can't disjoint this momentum. Coming off a pretty shit performance against Venezia, let's be honest, and now suddenly raise our game tenfold and put in this defensive masterclass against Arsenal. The mood is suddenly really good. The players all looked, immensely satisfied after the game, as they deserve to be. And you can't go from a performance like this to being like, maybe we can win. I think we have to win. And I think Conte's new 4-3-3 is still a work in progress, and they got destroyed by Atalanta just the other week. So I'm expecting us to beat them comprehensively. I think they're going to find it difficult to cope with the wing play, and I think they're going to find it difficult to cope with having or playing against two strikers. Like, I wouldn't be. I almost think Conte should try and match the 3-5-2, and rather than sticking with the 4-3-3 for this game, for his best chance of success. But home ground advantage, rested like 4 or 5 players, or at least partially rested 4 or 5 players, coming off a big win. We absolutely have to win. New expectation.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Demand more from the team. That's great. I think this match is really going to come down to how healthy Aslani's feeling after this last match. No, I'm just kidding. I think he's going to come. Even I can't go that far. No, I think we're well positioned and poised to put in a good performance. I expect there to be a good performance. I think the team's going to be motivated. I think they'll be confident coming off of good results, even if the performances weren't great. And again, the biggest complaint that I've had so far this season with our team and with Inzaghi is just him not getting it when it comes to our defensive lapses, right? So again, small sample set, but we've gotten 3 clean sheets in a row. Again, not compelling performances, but good results. And against Arsenal, it seems like we defended well. And again, like I just saw some tactical awareness and change from Inzaghi, which was great to see. And so I'm hoping that we carry that momentum in and we play a good game against Napoli and we defend well. Now they're going to be extra motivated because they're coming off of a loss to Atalanta and kind of an embarrassing loss. So I expect that they're going to obviously bring it too, and they'll have the benefit of a lot more rest. But these guys will be prepared. They'll be ready. I expect it to be a difficult match, but I expect us to play really well, especially with that core kind of, relatively well rested. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how we cope. But I think all signs are pretty positive.
What do you guys think? Is Acerbi going to start this match?
I would feel better knowing he was.
Yeah, same.
He hasn't played
Why? Why though?
since
He hasn't played for a while, and
he
Defray
hasn't
was good
played
enough.
since when he hasn't played since Roma, and that was October 20th. So that's like over 2 weeks ago.
I'm just still scarred from De Vrij being burned in the Juve game, to be honest. I know he was fine yesterday, but
He wasn't burnt there. Didn't we already
yeah,
discuss this?
well, let's not rehash this. Well, let's talk about this. So, Jay, you were talking about Conte tinkering formations or thinking he should for his best chance against Inzaghi. I was looked up their historical stats, and Conte actually has gotten the better of Inzaghi with 2 victories versus only 1 for Inzaghi. There's a draw mixed in there. A little hard to take into account because all those would have been when Inzaghi was at Lazio, and when you're at Lazio, you're not going to have nearly as good of a team as whatever team Conte was at the time. But do you, just breaking down this matchup a bit more, like typically we struggle against wingers or like faster players, like that's a vulnerability for us. Napoli's players aren't particularly fast. Politano's not a particularly quick player. Lukaku isn't what he once was. So how much of that do you think is going to be nullified, and how, like, what are your area of concern where you think we walk away from this game, we dropped points? What would be the reason why?
I don't know. I don't think it's like a player or a duel or some kind of matchup that would cause us to lose. I think the only way we can lose is if we just revert back to Serie A mode and just treat this the way we treated the Venezia game, or the derby, or even like the Juventus game. Where we kind of played with this expectation that we just win. I kept saying it looked like the players were taking it for granted and that the win would be assured, or that the win would come no matter what, as opposed to having to really fight tooth and nail for it like we did today. If we go back to playing with that kind of complacency, then yeah, I'd be worried just because of a team wide kind of relaxing in intensity. But yeah, individual duels or things like that, I don't really think so. I think De Vrij and Acerbi in particular probably capable of keeping Lukaku quiet. I think Lukaku's one of these guys who kind of struggles against these, dark arts type defenders. Acerbi's certainly more skilled in that than De Vrij, and so and we've seen that a lot. When he used to play for us, and he used to struggle against Chiellini and Bonucci immensely. So I don't think there's a huge risk there. Our defensive structure seemed a lot better today, and so I'd be hoping that we're not going to let Kvaratskhelia just waltz in from the right flank and cut one into the far post. You know what I mean? Like, overall, as long as we play our game and as long as we put in the same focus and effort that we did today, then honestly, I think that's all it comes down to. I really think that despite their place in the league standings, I still think we have a superior team to Napoli. They are the champions from 2 years ago, and we're the champions from 1 year ago. So there's still obviously a lot of title winning kind of pedigree with both teams. But I think, I don't know, did we not outperform Spalletti's Napoli, even though they won the league by like 30 points or something, 20 points? Did we not outperform them last season? Do we not finish with a higher point tally, more goals scored, less goals conceded, etc.?
Hold please while I look this up.
Anyone want to do a quick stat check?
So last season we finished with 94 points in the league. The previous year, Napoli finished with 90 points in the league. Napoli had a goal differential of plus 49. We had a goal differential of plus 67. So, to your points, both instances, the team who won the Scudetto kind of powered down by the stretch, took it easy to finish things up. But it's hard to argue anything other than we were the more dominant side.
Yeah. What was the difference between first and second place for both seasons?
We beat Milan by 19 points last year. Napoli beat Lazio by 26 points. Nope, by 16 points.
The proof's in the pudding. I really do think like our title winning machine was stronger and obviously more recent and more together. Napoli's was 2 years ago. They've gone through a season of absolute disaster essentially. Since then, they've lost a bunch of players. They lost their coach. We're still the same machine. So I really think that this Inter squad is stronger than the current Napoli squad, despite the expenditure on, McTominay and Lukaku and Conte. Despite that, I really do think we should be considered heavy favourites for this one. And I guess this time I've been wanting to see more kind of tangible reason to kind of reinstall that belief. And yeah, a game like the one against Arsenal, as I mentioned, is a perfect example of that. It was a perfect opportunity to gain some momentum, gain some confidence, and kind of kickstart the league campaign properly. Because even though we're second place, we should not have dropped so many points from leading or from leading positions. And I think everyone would agree the overall vibe around the league campaign has just been kind of weak, kind of dour. There's been a lot of late goals conceded, a lot of lackluster play, and you have to take advantage of these opportunities when they're given to you. We've been given a huge mental boost, through our own sweat and effort. It would just be ridiculous not to capitalize on that and just, go back to playing safe. So, yeah, we have to win. We really do.
Does anyone here want like a pound of flesh against Conte? Obviously, he didn't leave on favorable terms. For some reason, Zhang decided to pay him 7 million bucks to leave. He kind of quit on the team when he found out Suning wasn't going to be throwing cash at transfers. I'm just curious, like, do you guys have resentment towards him? Do you have a like, I want to beat this guy towards him, or is it just kind of a flipping indifference?
I don't know. I don't have a lot of resentment towards managers that leave, nor players. I just, once they leave, it's kind of just whatever. Like, so yeah, I'm not hugely fussed.
Yeah, for me, it's maybe a bit of an indifference as well, but I kind of like the current situation that I liked Conte back then, but then after we got Inzaghi and how different he plays the game, I wanna I wanna kind of beat him in his own game in a sense that Inzaghi came to like continue the Conte's work, and there are people who kind of complain Inzaghi that okay, he just started from where Conte left and Conte built it all and blah blah blah. But we play so differently than back then, and then we add the fact that we actually do something in the Champions League, opposed to what Conte was able to do. He wasn't able to do almost anything there.
Yes.
So in that sense, I want to beat him and show him that how to do it. Like okay, we beat Arsenal in Champions League, then we beat you right after, and we just keep on marching, and we don't care. We have these games all the time, opposed to you who prepare for the whole week for one match, and if you can't do that, you just complain that well I don't have time and I just can't get results if I can't do this one match per week. So in that sense, I have a bit of a crutch there that I would like to beat him.
Inzaghi, who I will admit I was not huge. I did not want him as a manager to replace Conte, but he is an upgrade in every way over Conte, just in terms of he produced the same result, which is winning a league, but he doesn't complain in every post-game press conference. He doesn't cry about management's treatment of the transfer budget. This guy always just takes what he's given. The closest I've seen to this guy complaining about club strategy was 2 years ago when he was begging them to sign a Cherby who cost like $1 million on a loan. Like he takes whatever he is given and he makes the most of it. And like you said, Miko, he has, at least compared to Conte, unparalleled European success in terms of going deep into the competition. Conte, I can't remember the last time he made out of the group stage, let alone the round of 16. So in a sense, I feel like we upgraded big time where we moved from Conte to Inzaghi, but I don't want to underplay what Conte did for this club, because when he took over for Spalletti, this team was truly a bunch of losers. These were guys who had never won anything before in their lives. They did not look like they were ever going to win anything because they just kept faltering in big spots. They kept losing critical matches. The only team we could beat that in games that meant anything was Milan when Spalletti was here. And I think Conte helped us overcome a lot of that mentality. He's a mentality master. There's no doubt about it. If he can fix Lukaku in the head, there's something special about this guy. So I think you have to be grateful towards Conte for his what he did to move this team along, and he really opened the first window. And I don't want to call this a dynasty, but like the first positive spell at Inter in quite some time. Like I give him a lot of credit for it. But much happier today with Inzaghi. Towards Jay's point, I don't really want like a pound of flesh from Conte, but if you still want to win, you still want to beat him, you still want to say like, look at the situation you left. It's better now than when you were here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, but like you said, and for the reasons you said, Andrew, like I don't have any ill will towards Conte. I think he came in and he kind of did a great job of doing what he really does, which is implementing, the kind of team mentality and team spirit that's needed to create like a bunch of winners from a bunch of kind of ragtag players. And I think he did a good job of that. And I was pretty vocal back when he was around before he left that really it was Suning's fault and not his fault that he was leaving. Now he does have that kind of petulant streak in him where he kind of rage quits. But I do think that ultimately that we were going through a lot of chaos with the owners, and there was a lot of noise and just weird stuff going on that side. So I don't really blame him for jumping ship. Like I don't have any ill will towards him for that. I wish he would have stayed, and I think your point about proving that he walked away from a good situation is a good point. So yeah, but I don't really see the fans who get really upset about playing Conte. Like of all of the managers we've had, he isn't one of those where I would be very adamant to beat and to beat down. But I think most of the intensity of this match comes from the fact that Napoli have been playing really well and they're top of the league. So we really need to win this over them so that we can leapfrog them and, create and treat this as like a real, cliche 6-point match. So I expect everyone to be extremely motivated and to play really hard, and it'll be a really good match. And hopefully, we do our part and we get the win.
And if we can leapfrog them now, I think I don't know, maybe we talked about this before, but I think it's very important we head to the like that we will be the winter champions, and this is a perfect place to like do the groundwork with that, since Napoli has some tough matches coming. Okay, I don't know if Roma match is a tough match, but there's Lazio and anymore. Roma is quite a mess, but there's Lazio and Fiorentina, and I think okay, Atalanta, that's the next round already. But
Yeah,
anyway,
Napoli's schedule is very backloaded. They have not yet played many of the good teams in the league. Ours is the opposite. Napoli's the last good team left on our schedule, besides maybe Fiorentina.
yeah, yeah. So in that sense, I would want us to leapfrog now, so that we can get this some kind of a lead and get the winter championship, so that in the spring we will be in a good position. Since I think that the longer the season goes, the Napoli's advantage of playing just one match per week, it will just grow. The advantage will grow, and we need to have some kind of a cushion there. But let's see, let's see. Uh, I want to talk about the player choices here, and one particular. Who would you start as your right winger or right wing back in this match?
It's a good question. Dumfries had an excellent game yesterday, and
Buchanan.
that Buchanan's a left wing back. Jay, don't be silly. Dumfries was excellent yesterday, and I would have no hesitation starting him. I do think it's going to be Darmian, just because that's what Inzaghi seems to do in big games. He wants that defensive solidarity. I don't know if Augusto being unavailable changes things. I think the answer is no. So I would be comfortable with either, with a slight preference towards Dumfries, just because I like the attacking play he offers. He just offers more going forward than Darmian, and I prefer getting early leads and trying to protect them than trying to come from behind in matches. But I'm fully expecting it to be Darmian.
Yeah. It was a like maybe only unfortunate thing with the rotation against Arsenal was that both Darmian and Dumfries played full 90 minutes, and they like couldn't be subbed off. I remember seeing Dumfries like maybe even asking for a sub, or I'm not sure, he was holding his thigh at some point,
Yeah,
and
that's because he saved the
it's
ball with his dick.
I think it was later.
Yeah,
I
he
know.
was
I'm
pointing
kidding.
to his dick.
and and it kind of looked that he wasn't even like running properly, and it looked like he has something on his leg, like it's not working correctly, or whatever. But
Hard
This
to
is
run
very
with such a dick.
dude. But Dumfries, by the way, has like the funniest facial expressions. Have you like seen it? It's like his nose is always like curled. It's like it's hilarious to like see his face on the pitch. I don't know. I
He
don't know if he
looks
does it on
like he's been
purpose.
staring at the sun for too long.
Right? Exactly. He's like squinting in such a way. I'm just like, what are you doing over there, man?
yeah, but I'm happy. I'm happy DiMarco had to play only like 15 minutes or something. Bastoni didn't have to play at all. So I kind of optimistic regarding the left flank, but the right flank is something I'm not so sure about. I guess Pavard will start, but but the but the wing back is, I don't know. It can go either way, and I wouldn't like. I see positives in both sides. Like Dumfries coming in later, so he can run against Napoli defense like fresh. But I understand Andrew's point as well, that it would be nice to have a Dumfries play most of the match there, and like use his offensive capabilities
Yeah.
early on.
Yeah. I would love to see Dumfries, but I think given DeMarco will be starting on the left, I think Inzaghi pretty much always puts Darmian with DeMarco because I think he views it as a better balance defensively. But we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if Dumfries does play, but I think he'll give Darmian the nod there. But one quick question I did have as a longtime listener, first time caller for specifically Jay was what did you think of Lautaro's performance against Arsenal?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought he made some good passes, or rather, he contributed to the attacking moments that we had through some intelligent passing. But realistically, I don't think he had much to do beyond that other than defending. And to that effect, he always does that well. So there's not a striker in the world who, in that situation, is going to really do a whole lot more. I mean, unless they're like some kind of Mbappe or someone like that who's got blistering speed and can kind of lead a counterattack on their own. When your attack is relegated to that, just being essentially the first line of defense, when your game strategy is to absorb pressure, then there's not much the striker can do. So in that scenario or in that circumstance, I think Lautaro did fine. Obviously, would have been nice to get some more attacks going to involve him and Thuram more to see if we can, score a second on the counter or something like that. But whatever, the way the game panned out, he did what he could.
And also because I have a suspicion that he's kind of turned a corner here. I expect him to have a really good match against Napoli. And we can get into that with our predictions, but I have a feeling that he's going to play really well.
Let's go ahead and get those predictions. Miko, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna go with 1-0. We're gonna win narrowly, but we continue with the clean sheets, and we keep Lukaku and Quara out of any like threatening our goal. So I'm gonna go with 1-0, and Lautaro is gonna get the goal.
Yes, Lukaku does not score in big games. I think this qualifies as a big game, so we should be good. Irfan.
Yeah, I think we're ready for this. I expect a really good performance. I demand a really good performance. I think we'll win 2-0, and I think Lautaro will get the brace.
Jay.
I'm taking 2-0 as well. I'll give a goal to Thuram and a goal to Lautaro is a good pick, as Fine mentioned. Hopefully, some encouraging signs there to indicate he's turned a corner. I think I'll give it to Barella, though.
I'm a little more pessimistic than you all. I think Conte is going to come out here very defensively. I think he's going to try and sit back. I think he's going to try and limit the amount of chances we have. He's good at this. There's no doubt about it. I think this is going to be close either way. I'm not expecting a win by multiple goals. If I were to take a J cop out, I'm expecting something of the 1-0, 1-1 range. You can put me down on a record for the 1-0 victory with a DeMarco goal, but I would not be surprised at all if this is a draw. Just, I can't imagine Conte dropping back-to-back games in the league. He might explode, and I respect him a lot as a manager.
He might actually quit, yeah.
If we could get him to rage quit by December, it would be a boon for our Scudetto chances.
Do you think there's any chance we lose?
I don't. I if I'm looking at the range of outcomes, I'd say a win is like a 40% chance. A draw is like a 55% chance, and there's a very slim chance we lose. I have too much faith in the team right now.
We're all picking a win. Sounds like a polling error if I've ever seen one.
Wow, this really like pumping the tires of Inter this time. Like everyone.
This is far and away the most optimistic episode we have ever recorded. If you guys think we're too pessimistic after this episode, I've got nothing for you.
What we need is just some abject performance to bring everyone back down to earth. And
let's return to our roots.
That's right.
Yeah, I think everything is possible given what we saw against Juve. So
and the fact
that this team dose of cold water.
Yeah, and the fact that this team just seems to have two completely different faces, one for Europe and one for Serie A. So
yeah, but it's really interesting. Like can it still be like that? Like we already had Milan, we had Juve, so there's like 2 matches already where we like blew it completely, like tactically wise. So can we like
can we blow it one more time?
But yeah, it's really fascinating to see how this match will pan out. How we're gonna like start it. How we're gonna if we take the lead, will we continue to like try to get another one no matter what's the situation? Like a bit like against Juve. So it's interesting.
All right, I gotta go to work. Miko, take us away.
Forza Inter.
Catch you all next week.
Go.
Jay's hot betting tip: Galatasaray versus Tottenham in 4.5 hours from now. I'm saying Galatasaray smash Tottenham 4-1. Forza Inter.
Heard it here first. Put your money on Tottenham.
Uncalled for, but all right.
All right, see you guys later.
Catch you guys
Until
later.
next time.
Bye.